greed puts drivers in need. Uber's greed puts drivers in need. Fighting for better treatment from Uber. Nobody's standing up for Uber drivers. Uber continues to treat their drivers like slaves and machines. And we're here to tell people that we are human beings.
Can you talk about what you want to see changed?
It's very simple what we want. We want just fair treatment from Uber. As the years go by, they keep taking, like I said, they keep taking more money from Uber drivers. In the new markets now, they're taking 25 to 30% from drivers compared to how it used to be about 10 to 15%. And now they're increased the safe ride fee, which means that they are getting more money now per ride, but the drivers are still getting paid the same. Also, they're getting rid of the cancellation fee in some new markets, which means that, like I said before, that drivers can go pick up riders and waste 10 to 15 minutes of their time, spend the money it takes to go pick them up, and the rider can cancel, and the driver will not be compensated for all the time and the money they spent from going to pick up that passenger. Our demands are very simple, asking to raise the rates 60% across the board, which is still way cheaper than cabs. It may sound like a lot, but like I said, in most markets the average rate is $1 to 90 cents per mile. When you calculate, if you raise it 60%, it's only $1.60 a mile, which is still way cheaper than cabs. Cabs are about $2.10, $2.50 a mile. And if you ask most riders, 90 to 95% at least will say even if they raise the rates, they will still continue to use Uber over taxis because they prefer the convenience and they prefer the way that Uber drivers are friendly and the drivers are, the cars are usually nicer. So there's no excuse for them not to raise the rates. They're in this bidding war against other companies, which the only people that are suffering from this are the drivers. I mean, they keep lowering the rates lower and lower. And back in 1980, the cabs were charging about 90 cents per mile. And here we are in 2015, 35 years later with all the inflation costs, and Uber is charging 75 cents a mile in some markets. So 35 years of inflation, they charge less. So there's obviously a reason why the cabs charge this much, because the cost of operating the vehicle. You know, people don't realize just because that we're getting this less rate of we're getting $1 a mile doesn't mean that the drivers are making all this money. They make it sound like Uber drivers are making all this money when in reality they're making less than minimum wage when you calculate all the expenses.
Do you think that it's an oversaturated market?
Yes, definitely. As the years go by, Uber continues to oversaturate every market. There's no cap on how many drivers can be on the market. Like right now, there's thousands of drivers. You look around, there's an Uber driver right there behind us. I mean, there's drivers everywhere. I mean, this oversaturation where now drivers can no longer make a decent amount of money to drive because there's so many drivers on the road, and it's just they keep increasing their marketing to get more drivers and more drivers, which is not fair for the drivers they have now because we're making less and less money as the years go by, and it's just not right. And we're also asking for them to increase the minimum cancellation fee and the minimum fare fee from $5 to $7, which in most markets it's about $4 or $5. So when you go pick up a passenger, you spend about 10 minutes picking them up, you spend the gas and the mileage it costs, and then for some reason, if that passenger cancels on you, you know, if you get $5, but you subtract their $1.50 safe ride fee, plus their 20%, plus the cost it costs to operate your vehicle, you're left with like 30 to 50 cents profit on that ride, which is really, really bad, considering it could take you about 20 minutes and you're getting 50 cents. So by increasing the cancellation fee by $2, it's going to make all the impact of the world for Uber drivers. And it's a very simple thing to do. I mean, we're not asking them for the moon here. We're just asking for fair treatment. I mean, all these demands are still cheaper than cabs and still be cheaper for the consumer. So there's no reason they cannot meet these demands. If they don't meet the demands, it means they don't really care about the drivers. And the way they've been operating, the way they've been responding to drivers through email, it really looks like a monkey is operating these email accounts. Because
how do you respond to Uber's response? They talk about the protest like this, and they say, well, we keep signing up 10,000 new drivers every month, so it must be good. They must like. How do you?
They rely on ignorance of drivers. That's what they rely on. They rely on the ignorance of the public to not know the true cost of operating the vehicle. I mean, people think they're creating these new jobs, when in reality they're taking away full-time jobs from professional drivers, you know, like cabs, limousine companies, and replacing them with part-time amateur drivers that are just doing this part-time for, you know, extra buck or whatever, which in reality is actually lowering this. It's not creating jobs, it's actually losing jobs. And when people that rely a lot of people are too ignorant to realize what the true cost of operating the vehicle is. I mean, unless professional know what the cost of operating your vehicle is, you're not going to learn what it costs until you start driving for a few months. That's why Uber's turnover rate is so high, because people start driving for Uber, and a few months go into it, and they start realizing the true cost that it costs to operate their vehicle, and then they quit. I mean, most of the drivers I know, the average turnaround time is a few months. They call it the honeymoon period, where drivers, they drive for a month or two, they love it, they think they're making all this money, then the true expenses start to kick in with the oil change, the tires, the new brakes, and they're like, okay, wait a minute, we're not making all this money like we thought we were going to, and then they quit. That's why they keep their ad campaigns are everywhere now. You go to Yahoo Mail, YouTube, it's on TV now. They got ads everywhere asking for drivers. I mean, they got bus ads, and they're promoting it like you're going to make all this money, when in reality, they're not. And that's why they're relying on ignorance of people to not know.
They target minorities.
Yes.
How do they do that?
Well, us minorities, we don't really make too much money. For one, a lot of us didn't have an education. So when they say $35 an hour for us, that's wow. That's excellent. But they also offer a program where you can get a brand new car. Bad credit. It doesn't matter what your credit is like, which a lot of minorities have bad credit. So we get in the car, we go get the car, and at first we think it's all good. We got a job, we got a brand new car. What else? This is perfect. But then that's when you start seeing the impact. When they're taking $200 a week from you for your car.
Did you do that? Or do you know?
I did do that.
So you got into.
I was ignorant enough to do that.
So you got into a subprime car loan. So can you talk about how that went? Your experience with that?
Well, I ended up getting it, but now they take my $178 out of my check every week. For one, the insurance, they give you no other option but to get the insurance that they're teamed up with, which is Metro Mile or Farmers. Metro Mile charges you by the mile, so I live in Fairfield, so I have to drive from Fairfield to here to make money, or try to make money, because in the East Bay they cut rates 15%. So the insurance with Metro Mile, the way it works is that when you're not driving a passenger, you're getting charged for every mile that you're driving. And I don't know what they have together, but it's kind of ridiculous that those are the only options that you can get. So my first insurance bill was $541 on top of the $178 that I'm paying a week. So I don't know, I'm making no money, so I'm stuck in a contract, and I'm pretty much.
How many hours a week do you figure you must work to make these expenses and try to earn a profit?
Like 68 hours I usually work, 70 hours I work a week. Yeah.
60 to 70?
Yeah, and that's not including the commute. That's actually working, finding rides, but not including the commute.
Do you think that your passengers understand what it's like for their drivers? Are the passengers oblivious, or?
Some of them, not all of them. There's a lot of them that really actually mistreat us, but there's a lot of them that are nice. There's a lot of nice passengers too, though. But I don't think they fully understand, and sometimes I don't really want to talk to them because of the fear of the retaliation with Uber, that they know my name, and that's why there's not a lot of drivers here. A lot of drivers actually support it. I've talked to a lot of drivers, but they're afraid. There's drivers here that aren't with us right now that are around that don't want to be seen.
Yeah, let me add to that.
As we speak.
That is definitely, they're using the fear factor of retaliation. They're trying to act like they're big bullies and big mobsters here to bully drivers. Myself, I tried to organize a strike in my own city of Kansas City. I had one of the highest ratings in the company, a 4.95 out of 5. I had a high acceptance rating, low cancellation rating, and I had every single comment of my riders were positive, not a single negative rider review. But they terminated me for trying to form a strike in my local city of Kansas City. So that's why because they saw the support that I was getting, and they saw the momentum that I was building, and they deactivated me. That's the reason that they deactivated me, for trying to form a strike. So that is unjust. I mean, for trying to form a strike for better treatment of your work is protected activity under law. Just for them to label us as independent contractors, we have to treat us as employees, does not mean they can continue to misuse the labor laws. So that's why we organize a nationwide strike now, to tell them that, you know, they cannot keep bullying drivers.
You've been accused on social media as just being in this for yourself, and you're just trying to get followers. What do you say?
Well, that makes no sense. Well, what do I have to gain from this? I'm not even a driver anymore. I spent my own money to come out here. I spent my own money to market this campaign. That doesn't make any sense. There's really no logical reason for me to do this. What do I have to gain if I'm not a driver? So I'm doing this honestly because there's nobody standing up for Uber drivers, and that's that somebody needs to stand up and make a stand for all Uber drivers.
Travel all the way from Kansas City.
Got hit by the Uber driver. You know the person got hit by the Uber driver? Now, insurance, did they cover? Did a personal insurance cover it, or did Uber's insurance cover it?
I'm not sure. That's a whole different situation.
What do you,
I mean, when you
feel
drive,
is
a
a government's role in this? For example, like capping the numbers, or making sure that you have a livable wage. Do you feel that this is something that Uber just needs to do independently, or that a government has a role in this from a regulatory standpoint?
Well, let me just say that in government, in New York City a few months ago, the mayor tried to make a law in place to put a cap on the amount of drivers that Uber was allowed to have, which would have been a great thing, because then drivers would have a chance to, you know, compete with other transportation industries and actually make some money. But so what Uber did is spend millions and millions of dollars on ad campaigns bashing the mayor's bill and making him look bad. So the mayor stepped down from the bill and no longer is pursuing that. So now Uber has no cap, and they can continue to just oversaturate the market with thousands and thousands of drivers, which they're doing. And it's really like they're looking like on a self-destruction path, because the way they keep treating their drivers is worse and worse. It's like they think they want to see how far they can keep pushing us, really. I mean, because it started out as 10 to 15%, and now we're talking 25 to 30% they're taking from Uber drivers. But and also they're getting less.
No cancellation fee.
No cancellation fees. And it started out as $2.25 a mile, and now they're down to 90 cents, 75 cents. It's just crazy.
What are your thoughts on the California class action lawsuit where the drivers are fighting for employee status? What are your thoughts there?
I think that's a great thing. I think these legal battles will determine that Uber is mislabeling all drivers. I actually have a legal case going against them myself with National Labor Relations Board. But these things take years, especially with Uber and having a lot of money. They're going to just keep pushing these legal battles off for years and years in time. So instead of waiting in court to decide to weigh the treatment of the drivers, I figured we need to stand up for ourselves and quit wasting time. But I feel like, honestly, in a few years' time, that the federal courts will declare, yes, Uber is mislabeling their drivers, and they are indeed employees, and Uber will have to release all the control they have over us now. But that could take a long time. So I think it's a great thing, but I think it's going to take too long. So we need to take matters to our own hands now, instead of waiting for the court system that takes years.
Are there still, do you think that there are still, at least with the Uber X platform, are there still insurance gaps?
Well, that's another thing. Most drivers are pretty much committing insurance fraud, because if anybody goes and tells their insurance, oh, I drive for Uber, most of the time they will be dropped that day. I've seen personal hand in drivers in Kansas City that their insurance found out they were driving for Uber and they canceled them. They sent them a letter saying, we're canceling you because you are you're driving your car for a ride share, which is not covered by your policy. So Uber expects all drivers to take the risk of committing insurance fraud by not telling our insurance that we drive for Uber. Because I'm telling you, the reality is, if they go tell their insurance, they will most likely be dropped. And especially if you work for Geico, because most of the cancellations and drops I've seen is with Geico. And they're coming out with these new ride-sharing insurance, but they are outrageously priced. And there's just no physical way for an Uber driver to make.
Even though they have it, most of these drivers aren't signing up for it. It's because it's purely voluntary. I mean, there's no law that says you need to carry that kind of insurance, and most drivers are just opting to just commit fraud.
Yeah, exactly, because that's the only way. They can't afford to have rideshare insurance. They definitely can't afford commercial insurance.
How do you justify yourself then? Because you're knowingly committing insurance fraud.
Yeah, I took the risk. I took the risk just like every other driver is. Right. I did take the risk, and luckily my insurance didn't find out. I'm still insured, but I don't even drive for Uber anymore, so it's not much of a concern. But like I said, I got deactivated for wrongful reasons. But yeah, there's no, I took the risk just like every other driver is. So there's no justification about it. It is what it is. So that's why, that's why we're here today to, we shouldn't have to try to commit insurance fraud and do all these things on behalf of Uber. So I mean, it's just crazy that they keep growing and these numbers and these valuations keep getting bigger, but the way they keep treating drivers is the worse and worse. And like I said, they don't even have a phone number. I mean, if we get into a serious accident right now, we have no phone number or emergency contact to call. I mean, they give us like a little insurance card, but when push comes to shove, we're at their mercy when they respond to us with their emails. And most of the time, their emails are so generic that it's obvious that they didn't even read the emails. So I mean, that's...
My last question is, you said before that it's an oversaturated market, and what are your feelings about how that is impacting other industries like taxis, limos, and shuttle bus drivers? They're all licensed and insured commercially.
Yes, that's a very good question. Basically, the way I feel Uber is headed right now is they're cutting out the competition so much that within a few years' time, there will be no more taxis, no more limos. There will only be Uber. And at that time, they'll have the monopoly over the transportation industry. And that with that kind of power, who knows if they're gonna probably, they have the power to raise the rates to, $4 or $5 a mile, nothing nobody can do, because they will have all the monopoly and all the, I truly feel that's like their goal here, because the way they keep lowering the rates, it's like there's no logical reason for them to lower rates like this, like 75 cents a mile. That is absurd. I mean, because you think about taxis charging $2.20 and here's Uber charging 75 cents. I mean, it's the way that they're trying to completely wipe out the industry. They're coming in here and not even paying attention to the laws and cities. They're just coming in and worrying about their repercussions later. And I'm surprised that taxi drivers haven't stood up more than they are now. I mean, for the amount of money that taxi drivers have spent lobbying the city council members, Uber, we could have made an association for Uber drivers that could have put a stop to this. So I don't know if maybe taxi drivers are going about this wrong. I don't know, but I feel like everybody needs to unite as one, all rideshare in together and demand real change.
What's your response? People are going to say, well, nobody's forcing you to work for Uber, so why don't you just get in it?
And that's the main response we've been getting, is people that say that if you don't like Uber, then just quit. But if everybody thought that way, then nothing would get accomplished as far as labor rights go. I mean, unless we stand up for ourselves and fight for better rights, Uber is just going to continue to treat us worse and worse. So yeah, we could just quit, but that accomplishes nothing. We're here to stand up to Uber and fight to tell them that we demand better rights. That's the whole reason for behind us.
Your comment Uber has a driverless car research facility. What about discouraging driverless cars?
And that's another thing. It's funny actually, because they blatantly tell people that we don't care about you so much, that we are trying so hard to get driverless cars on the market as soon as possible so we can get rid of all drivers. I mean, even the CEO, Travis, has said that multiple times, that we are pushing all the money we can get on this driverless car program to get it to the market as fast as possible. And that's telling people that they just don't care about drivers. But in all reality, there's no way it's going to hit the market anytime soon. We're talking 5, maybe 10 years out before that hits the market. I mean, I think we're honestly far away from that. So I mean, can you imagine people start driving around driverless cars? I mean, that's going to happen. It's going to be a while. I mean, I'd say at least 5 years. So that's going to be a long time between now. So we need to start doing these things now.
After the greedy 30% commission, we're left with nothing. After paying gas, maintenance, oil changes, we're left with well below minimum wage. Don't even get me started on complaining passengers. They'll deactivate you without warning. They never want to hear our side of the story. They can put on big expensive parties in Las Vegas for their employees who sit in comfortable offices.
You pay all your things. You just come out from me.
Some drivers work 70 hours a week.
We pay your salary. We do your dirty work.
They cut our commissions without so much as an email until weeks later. Uber's great, puts drivers in need. Uber's great, puts drivers in need. Uber's great, puts drivers in need.